He who could do everything would never do any wrong. He who could do everything would never do harm. This is paraphrased from Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Essentially, raise your kids to be strong and they will be good. When you have the choice between good and evil, why would you choose evil? If you chose evil, then you chose something absurd. Evil comes from weakness, so if you want to prevent evil, then raise your kids to be strong. If you raise your kids to be strong, he who could do everything would never do harm. You could do everything. Why would you hurt somebody? I think it's true that evil comes from weakness. I believe that to be true. Look at the James Holmes shooting. Look at the Columbine shooting. There's a lot of crazy behavior because of weakness. So, recently, this is a George Brauchler governor's race, gubernatorial 2018 for Colorado update. So after this Western Conservative Summit straw poll came out that had George Brauchler winning 38% of the vote, Ted Nugent, good old Ted Nugent, right? Theodore Anthony Nugent. He went ahead and said, hey, George, I back you. I support you. And then George was like, hell yeah. He was happy to have Theodore Anthony Nugent's endorsement. He was so happy. So Ted Nugent famously threatened Barack Obama to suck on his machine gun. Now George Brauchler is sucking on that machine gun voluntarily. He's doing it just because, he apparently just loves Theodore Anthony Nugent, just like Donald Trump, just like Sean Hannity, just like Sarah Palin, which is fucked up. It's fucked up. It seems like he's just an opportunist. I don't know why these politicians would hobnob with Theodore Anthony Nugent, okay? He's a fucked up person. He's a fucked up person. So, I'll get to that in a second, but first the straw poll, okay? So the Western Conservative Summit had a straw poll, and George Brauchler, who's Arapahoe County state's attorney, the DA, the state's attorney, the same thing, he got 38%. He got 38%. Now, Victor Mitchell is the one who came in closest as second place with 20%. And then Steve Barlock took third with 7%. Doug Robinson took fifth with 5%. And Doug Robinson's been spinning a lot of ads. I've been seeing his name all over the place on the internet. So, Doug Robinson hasn't been able to make any traction, at least according to this Western Conservative Summit. He only got 5%. Steve Barlock got 7%. Victor Mitchell got 20%, which is substantial, but not as substantial as 38%. So, George Brauchler kicked everybody's ass. Everybody that was on this poll, this Western Conservative Summit straw poll, 18 Republicans were on the list, 7 Democrats and 1 independent. They were testing conservative leaders. So the Western Conservative Summit was trying to find out who is the strongest conservative for Colorado's future. And out of 18 Republicans, 7 Democrats, 1 independent, George Brauchler was super popular. Now, it's interesting that they added 7 Democrats. If you're a fucking conservative, be a goddamn Republican. Republicans want to keep things the same. Democrats want to change shit. Conservative versus liberal has been the conversation throughout all time. If you're a Democrat and you're not a liberal, get the fuck out. You're in the wrong party, okay? So jump overboard and get on the Republicans. If you're a liberal, why would you be a Democrat? Why would you be a Democrat and then, not have liberal ideas? Essentially, being a Democrat would mean you have more liberal ideas than conservative. And if you have more conservative ideas than liberal, be a fucking Republican. That's your party, okay? Your party's been waiting for you for a long time. Victor Mitchell came in second with 20%. Now, who's Victor Mitchell? He's got some millions. Victor Mitchell's going to be a contender, and he didn't vote for Donald Trump. This is going to be good for him in November 2018, but he's got to win that primary, which is, I don't know, March or May or so. So he's got to win this primary by March or May. But by the time November 18 comes around, Trump approval's rating is going to be negative 36%. it's going to be worse. It's going to be at the heart, the heat of these midterm elections, and he hasn't, he's treading water. He hasn't made huge gains. He has, I don't like the gains he's already made, but Victor Mitchell voted for Evan McMullen. Victor Mitchell is principled. So watch out, George Brauchler. You got a principled man you're actually running against. George Brauchler is very much an opportunist. Because he's an opportunist, that's why he loves Ted Nugent's endorsement. Ted Nugent is endorsing him, and the reason, even though Ted Nugent is a piece of shit, the reason why George Brauchler likes it is because Ted Nugent can get crowds. Oh, you can get some crowds, right? And the lyrics to that song, I heard Huckabee was like, oh, he changed the lyrics. Okay, but this is, the fucking guy. This is the man that you're going to champion. I think you should look at the man beforehand. Don't just say, well, he's popular. The fucking president likes him. Sarah Palin likes him. Hannity likes him. Let's all just love Theodore Anthony Nugent. And what a fucking hypocrite, right? He tells Barack Obama to suck on his machine gun. But that's once the Republicans are in power, now he's saying, okay, everybody, let's tamper down the rhetoric, okay? Come on, temper yourself, regulate yourself. Shit, oh, now you're for regulation, huh? You're for regulating rhetoric. Mr. fucking Theodore Anthony Nugent, Mr. fucking Freedom is for regulating rhetoric. Yeah, now that the Republicans are in power, he's like, oh shit, I don't like it when they're saying that shit about us. Huh, isn't that interesting, you fucking hypocritical piece of shit? That's pretty much American foreign policy, right? If you do it, it's not a fucking crime, but as soon as somebody else does it, it's the biggest fucking crime in the world. You guys are a bunch of fucking crybabies, I swear to God. But that's, adhere to your own damn standards. Anyways, I'm gonna get to him in a second, I swear to you. Probably next video. But I want to talk about this straw poll, okay? So the straw poll is interesting. It's interesting because it, shows how Victor Mitchell has, some traction. Doug Robinson, just the straw poll was testing 3,500 people from 40 states. So that means this straw poll told us nothing. We learned nothing from the straw poll. Because, that's not Colorado. That's not who Colorado wants. That's who the, 40 states, not even the U.S., just 40 select states. Probably some from Colorado was there. So that's 39 other fucking states. 3,500 people was part of this from 40 states, minus the one. So that's 39 other fucking states who's trying to run Colorado. They're trying to pick the governor of Colorado for us. So I wouldn't take a grain of salt to this thing. This isn't Colorado speaking. This isn't Colorado's voice. This doesn't show this is not a litmus test for Colorado whatsoever. It's a litmus test just across the board. It's just for the United States. Who does Vermont want to be the governor of Colorado? Who does Maine and Massachusetts want? Who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck what Arizona thinks about our beloved, our goddamn centennial state? This is our Colorado. Arizona, it's got one of the best, most beautiful state flags out there with the sun and the rays coming out of it, especially compared to the terrorist flag of Ohio. It's a look at Ohio's flag. It's a goddamn terrorist flag, okay? Change your flag, Ohio, okay? Because you guys look like the terrorist who wiped out Tecumseh, Miami, Shawnee, and oh yeah, that's exactly the Native American genocide. The dead bodies that's living underneath of you all. Ohio, no wonder you got a terrorist flag that represents exactly who you are. But who gives a fuck what Ohio thinks about Colorado? Who cares what Arizona thinks? Arizona, it's all got all that damn humidity on the border of Mexico, California, and Nevada. So they're right on the border. We're, up a ways from the border. So they got different issues. They got all that humidity. They're a different state. The Arizona also had state officials that killed my friend Ronnie Lee Smith. So I'll never forgive you for that, Arizona. You killed my fucking friends, you pieces of shit, over marijuana. Fuck you, Arizona. The Grand Canyon state. The Grand Canyon of fucking conservative abyss. The Grand Canyon of debauchery and corruption. The Grand Canyon state. Yeah, you got a Grand Canyon amount of fucking corruption in that state. And we're the Centennial state. We just had our 141st birthday just August 1st, so 2 days ago. So Colorado's 141, and then America's only 240 years, so 240 years, 141. We haven't been here that long as a nation, as a group, as a people. So no wonder we're making all these damn bonehead mistakes. We just fucking started this shit. So even though there's historical precedent, there's never been a historical precedent for that which is the United States of America. So the grand democratic experiment, which is liberal democracies, that's what they say all across the world. If you were against kings and queens, you were a liberal because you wanted to run your own country. Conservatives wanted to keep the kings and queens in the royal list. So if you're a fucking conservative during the American Revolution, would you have fought with King George III? Some fucking conservatives would. I guarantee you they would. The Revolutionary War was 1/3 for, 1/3 against, and 1/3 neutral. So it was a civil war. It was, brother versus brother, family versus family, neighbor versus neighbor. It's exactly what the American Revolution was like. So, we got our statehood. We got our statehood August 1st. So, congratulations, Colorado. 141 years young. Happy Colorado Day. It was 2 days ago, but that's okay. 141 years. So Ulysses S. Grant signed Proclamation 230 on August 1st, 1876, and the Centennial State became the 38th state admitted into the Union. So, good old Ulysses S. Grant, Proclamation 230. Colorado is 141 years young, so yes, yes. The great General Ulysses S. Grant. You know all about Ulysses S. Grant. He initiated Reconstruction. He maintained Reconstruction until the fated election of Tilden v. Hayes. But he was Lincoln's right-hand man. He's the one that won the Civil War. He was the general that won the Civil War. So that's how he became president, become a general who sits on the president's right-hand side. So don't be like McClellan, right? So General Ulysses S. Grant, he initiated America's first civil service commission, which was initiated to prevent nepotism and corruption in government. So folks are hired based on skill and talent-based standards, based on merit, instead of just who they knew. Ulysses S. Grant was an anti-stalwart. Pueblo City's got a civil service commission. So this is a popular idea, having civil service commissions. U.S. Grant promised in his inaugural address to work towards the proper treatment of the original occupants of this land, the Indians. Ulysses S. Grant appointed Eli S. Parker, a Seneca Indian, a member to his wartime staff as Commissioner of Indian Affairs. The first one to ever do that. The head of Indian Affairs, hey, let's make that an Indian or Native American, a Seneca Native American. So that's Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant initiated Reconstruction. Andrew Johnson hated him and fucked it all up, but it was motherfucking Ulysses S. Grant. Best friends with Honest Abe. He forced Robert E. Lee to his knees. He forced Robert E. Lee to capitulate, to give up when he was still alive. So Robert E. Lee is fighting this war. He betrays the Confederacy, and those dumb fucks still love him. But he gave up. If you're a real soldier, you fight till you're dead, right? But not Robert E. Lee. Nope. He says, fuck this. I want to still live, right? So he signed a document at the Appomattox Courthouse, and then Robert E. Lee went on home. He didn't fight to the bitter end. The Confederate cause wasn't fucking important to him. It's almost like he didn't give a fuck about the war to begin with. And another interesting thing, Robert E. Lee said there shouldn't be any monuments to the Confederacy in the United States. So not only did he give up, not only did he surrender, but he welcomed being part of the Union once more. Theodore Anthony Nugent, what's his beliefs? Oh, he's a big fucking Confederate fucking piece of shit too. He'd rather the Confederacy have won. He said we'd have a better country if the Confederacy had won. He's such a racist, white supremacist, low-life piece of shit. Fuck Ted Nugent. Fuck Theodore Anthony Nugent. There's that new Confederacy series, the Game of Thrones HBO series. Guys are bringing it out. Spike Lee already made a mockumentary about a hypothetical world where the Confederacy won. I think the comparison would be apt. Why? Because we have the alt-right, the white supremacist alt-right rising. The fascism is rising in America. Fascism has been unleashed all throughout the world. The empire is very much unmitigated fascist. It's a fucking fascist through and through. It makes no apologies about it. So, Ted Nugent, he loves the Confederacy. Ted Nugent, he called Barack Obama a sub-mongrel human when he's the fucking sub-mongrel human. Okay, but who the fuck uses that language? Sub-mongrel human? That's 1820s. The roaring 1820s. Theodore Anthony Nugent's trying to bring the 1820s back. Right? Did they even have forks and shit back then? I know they didn't have a radio or cars or internet or electric, but Ted Nugent wants to bring the past back, right? Make Colorado great again. And I'm going to go through exactly what he had said, but here's some other racist shit. He said in 1990, he told the Detroit Free Press that South African apartheid isn't that cut and dry. The fuck if it ain't. Minority whites controlling the majority black country. And he says it's not that cut and dry because not all men are created equal. Oh, not all men are created equal. So white men are better than black men. That's exactly what the fuck he's saying. That's a white supremacist. He's a flat out, full on, fucked up, racist piece of shit. Fuck Theodore Anthony Nugent. Jesus Christ, man. George Brauchler, do you even know who the fuck he loved? George Brauchler couldn't wait for this endorsement. He loved Teddy fucking Nugent's endorsement. He thinks blacks are sub-mongrel humans. Those people who think like that, you're projecting. You're the fucking sub-mongrel human. Ulysses S. March also was macheteing the first KKK, right? The ghost of the Confederacy. So he's sitting there fucking macheteing them and trying to smash them. The federal occupation ended after his presidency because of Tilden v. Hayes. So unfortunately, U.S. Grant, if he would have stayed in there, then perhaps we would have had a more fair democratic country. But the failure of Reconstruction was the failure of Abraham Lincoln's vision. And in some respects, the Confederacy did win. They did win. Blacks didn't get the right to vote, and they were pushed right back into second-class citizens. So Arizona isn't Colorado. Fuck Arizona. Of course Arizona isn't Colorado. Colorado's got legalized freedom. We've already legalized freedom, which is weird. Why did we have to legalize freedom to begin with? Arizona is old America. There's a new America and there's an old America. The 8 states that have legalized marijuana and D.C. is new America. Fuck old America. So to me, the U.S. is only made up of 8 states and Washington, D.C. only. The place where weed is legal is the only places worth visiting because that's the vanguard issue for progressive issues. Pay attention. Collective progressive futures. This marijuana issue changes the entire game. Does it not? And since it's already been established and it's working and it's successful, let's keep it. Let's keep it like that. Also, since 8 states and Washington, D.C. are the only states that matter to me, since that straw poll was 40 different states, then that means it's a bunch of old states, a bunch of old America. And you know what? I don't give a fuck what old America says about this. Now, if Oregon said it, I might listen to it. Some of your conservatives in Oregon, but not in any of your other states. Fuck you conservatives in 42 states. So, fuck the anti-marijuana baby boomers. Weed's been legal for 5 years, so it's actually a conservative position to keep it legal. Who cares what Arizona thinks? Who cares what Ohio, Vermont, Massachusetts thinks about our governor? Colorado, that is our governor. Massachusetts, they're named after the original inhabitants, right? There used to be Massachusetts Native Americans, Aborigines, Amerindians, Indians, but not anymore. So I guess that's okay if you name the state after the Native Americans, even though you genocide. Is that how you're trying to make up for it? Massachusetts? What about Utah too, right? Where are the Utes, Utah? So let's get into what Theodore Nugent had precisely said here coming up.